welcome back to another video. I'm finally feeling a little bit better. I'm starting to, feel like my body doesn't hate me quite as much as it was hating me last week. This is a monthly roundup. I don't know if I said that already. Yeah, okay. Okay, so first book of the year was Cythes by Neil Schusterman. This was so good. So this book takes place in a really futuristic society where basically there is no more government and all of the world is governed by this thing called the Thunderhead, which is like the cloud, but it's artificial intelligence that actually is super peaceful and intelligent, obviously, and has managed the resources of the planet and just has made it so that we are immortal. And humans are immortal. Because we're immortal and obviously the population keeps growing, there is this thing called the Cythes, which is an entity that is separate from the Thunderhead, and where basically they have these people who are Cythes, who are the people who decide who has to die. And they have to kill an X amount of people per year to fill in a quota, and that's basically the only way that you can die. We have two main characters, Cythes and Rowan, who both get chosen to be Cythes for apprenticeships. And then stuff starts going down, and it's a really good book, so I don't want to give too much information, but it is a really good book, and basically just stuff starts to go down, and they sort of have to fight for their lives, kind of thing. So it's very easy to read. The writing is easy to read. And it's very interesting to learn about this possibility that our world could actually be like this. I read this with my friend Tori, so we were buddy reading, and it was really enjoyable, and it was really fun to afterwards talk about the book and talk about what we thought about it. Then I read Little Fires Everywhere by Celeste. I don't know how to say that. I already butchered it in my what I got for Christmas video, so yeah, here we go. So this is about a little town called Shaker Heights, where a mother and a daughter arrive, and then they make relationships with other people there, and it's just about how their influence kind of impacts this family and how they change the course of their lives and stuff. And it's interesting, and it's written in a very interesting and different way. I'd never read anything like this. It's not super easy to read, but it's also not very hard. And it sort of goes back in time, it goes back and forth between the present and the past. So we learn a lot about the past of all of the characters, which I thought was really, really interesting, because they do things that if you only had the perspective of one main character, you would think that those people are villainous because they did things that were harmful or hurtful or dangerous or whatever to the main character. But when you have the backstory of every single character that is involved, it becomes a lot harder to find a villain, because everybody has a motive for doing things, and it can go back as far as their childhood, or it can be something more recent. But everybody, not that they have an excuse to doing it, but everybody is the way they are and does the things they do for a reason. And it's just very interesting to have a look at that, and to at the end of the book, I didn't really know if I loved or hated any of the characters or how I felt about them, because all of them had such rich and interesting backstories, and I was interested in their lives, but I couldn't decide what I felt about their actions. So it's very interesting, and it's a really good read, and I know this book is very popular at the moment, so if you do get a chance to read it, it is really good. Then I read This Is the Ritual by Rob Doyle, and I hated this so much. This is actually a series of short stories, and I didn't realize it was short stories, but I wasn't opposed to it. But basically, I started reading it, and the first couple of stories were not super interesting, but the first one was kind of funny or made me laugh in a few places, and they weren't awful, so I was interested in carrying on. But the only reason that I finished this was because I was rage reading it, and I was annoyed, and I didn't understand, and a lot of it felt like, if you're a writer and you have an idea for a book, you would start writing drafts and little thoughts that you have about the story, about the characters. A lot of it felt like that, but terrible. It just was overly sexual, overly explicit, and it just was awful. I was horrified after that book, so I went to my safe place of Harry Potter and I read the HalfBlood Prince. This is number 6 in the series, and obviously last month I read number 5, so you know I'm trying to like read one a month, and I don't know what I'm gonna do when I finish next month, but we will see. I don't know. Yeah, and this was great. It's one of my favorite books in the series, probably my favorite book. I don't know if this is my favorite, but it's like one of my favorites. I really enjoy reading this. There's some mystery, there's like things happening. I like that this is the book where we find out a lot of stuff about Voldemort and about like why he is the way he is, and I think that's really interesting. So I really enjoyed this, obviously, as always. And the last book that I read this month, I haven't quite finished, but I am here, so I think I'm gonna consider it, is Thunderhead, which is the second book in the Cythes series. Number 1, number 2. And the third book will be coming out in June or something. It's coming out this year. Anyway, so this is a year after where we left off with the last book, and we hear about what Cythes and Rowan are up to, and all of the corruption that is happening, and just everything that's going on. I don't want to say anything because obviously anything that I say about this one will ruin it for the other one. But in this one, we kind of hear more from the perspective of the Thunderhead, which I thought was really interesting. There's some new characters that play a really important role, but I do feel like we're getting really close to the end, and there are a lot of things that still need to be like sorted out. So I feel like we're gonna be left on a cliffhanger again, and the story is gonna be wrapped up in the last one. I really am enjoying this, and I can't wait for the next book. And that is all of the books that I read this month. So then we're gonna move on to series. Something that I've been watching recently is How I Met Your Mother, so we're watching that together, and it is a really good show, but now we're getting to the 9th season, which is the one where everything ends, and I really hate the way they wrapped up the season, and I hate the way that they did it, so I'm not enjoying it super. I like watching it, but also I'm hating this season because I don't like this season. That's a really good thing to watch like when we're having dinner or, you know, before bed. So we're enjoying that. I'm also watching The Good Place. I started watching it a couple weeks ago, and I'm really liking it. The episodes are really short and sweet, but they do make me chuckle and they do make me laugh. It's not super serious, but it does make you think about a few things. And the concept is that this woman is, actually there's a few people who have died, and it's the idea that that they go into heaven or hell or whatever. So it's called The Good Place and the Bad Place. And yeah, and then basically what their adventures there and what happens and all the and it's just like a nice light-hearted kind of show. I also watched Grace and Frankie's new season. I watched that in like a week, and now it's over, and I have to wait until next year, but it's fine. I'll live. But obviously I've spoken about Grace and Frankie in the past. It's a really good show. Basically these two ladies who are in their 70s or something get left by their husbands who were having an affair with each other, and so they go off and get married, and the two of them are left living together because they have nowhere to go. And then it's like the whole dynamics of the family and the kids and how they get along, and obviously at the beginning they have a really bad relationship, but then they start becoming friends. I feel like as we go on in the seasons, it is getting less interesting, because at the beginning it was like what made the show really good was the friction between the two of them. And even though there is always still some friction because they have to do that because otherwise it's not funny, but now that they're best friends, it's kind of like more of the same. And I feel like because they went off and got married and the two of them are friends, like there's not that much to explore there. But having said that, I do really enjoy the characters, so I like watching it, but I feel like it's not as good as it used to be. Okay, so onto the cinema. I went to the cinema twice this month. It's one of my New Year's resolutions to go to the cinema more often because I really like going. And most of the time, we just don't get around to it. And we talk about going but don't actually go. So I'm trying to be more conscious about that and more just do more things that I enjoy. The first movie that we went to see this month, both of those, this month and this year, was Aquaman. So we obviously didn't have really high hopes for it because we're not like Marvel or DC or whatever superhero fans, but I thought it would be like an okay like afternoon movie, you know? But it was so bad. It was so bad. Some things were explained too much, and then other things were just like not explained at all. Like why there was one point where there were like dinosaurs and nobody even mentions it, and it's like, what? Sorry, what? Can we just like back up a little and explain that bit? It was so cringy, like just so cringy. All of it was just felt like really forced and not good. And it felt like they were trying really hard to be funny and to be like cool, but they didn't do it. And we also saw Green Book, and this is about the story of a musician who is called, let me try it, Shirley. Whew. So it's about the musician Don Shirley, who was a black pianist around, you know, he was really popular around the 60s. And this is when the story takes place, so in the early 60s. And essentially he's going on tour in the deep south of the United States, and he needs a chauffeur / person who will handle troubles and problems if they come up. And the person that he finds is this Italian New Yorker who is, I can't remember his name. And so then we follow their journey and the concerts that they give and the things that happen between them, and their relationship is really funny and really sweet to watch because obviously this chauffeur guy had an idea of what black people would be, and then this obviously changes because he understands and he gets to know Don Shirley and they get to know each other, and it's just very interesting to watch. It is based on a true story, and what else? And I really liked the movie in itself, but the message was really powerful to me as well. And another thing that I really want to add really quickly is we bought this game called Kingdom Hearts 3, which is like really popular, it just came out. And I had never played any Kingdom Hearts before. It's kind of like anime mixed in with Disney, and there are a lot of like, you have characters from Disney, like you go into Disney worlds. Like the first world that you go into is Hercules, and you actually are playing with Hercules and like fighting the bad guys with him, and it's really cool and it's really fun because you're like fighting bad guys and all that, and there is a story and stuff, but it's like Disney at the same time. And a lot of the things that you're doing, like the battles, you can summon attacks, whatever, and the attacks are roller coasters and different things that you can do at Disney, like the pirate ship and stuff. And then you use that to fight the bad guys, and it's just so beautiful to watch, and it's so much fun to play, and I'm really enjoying it. And I had never like been really into a game like that on the PlayStation, and I'm really into that one, and I'm actually gonna wrap this up now to go and play that game. Yeah, so that is all of the things that I have to say. I hope you have a good February. Do you have any plans for what you're doing this month? Are you celebrating Valentine's Day? Are you not? How do you feel about that? I personally don't think it's that big of a deal, but I do like the excuse to do something different. So we're actually going to be traveling to another town in Portugal, and we're gonna go and spend the weekend and have like a nice relaxing time. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget you can leave it a like and a comment, and consider subscribing to my channel if you haven't already. You can also consider becoming a member on Patreon because you get special perks and you'd be helping me make more videos and try more things for the future. That is all the things that I have to say. I hope you have a great day. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!